All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's Team Kentucky update. We've got to start by recapping an incredible announcement yesterday, highlighting an incredibly exciting economic development investment that we announced here in the Commonwealth that unquestionably makes Kentucky the undisputed leader for electric vehicle battery production in the United States of America. Envision AESC, a world-leading Japanese electric vehicle battery technology company, is investing $2 billion to build a state-of-the-art Gigafactory in Bowling Green, Kentucky, to produce battery cells and modules that will power the next generation of vehicles. This is the second largest investment in our state's history. And the best part, this project's creating 2,000 full-time jobs for residents in that Warren County region. It's a 30 gigawatt-hour site that will serve multiple global automotive manufacturers, and it increases Kentucky's battery production capabilities to 116 gigawatt hours, making the Commonwealth the nation's leading producer of electric vehicle batteries. Envision AESC's Gigafactory is being built on more than 400 acres in the Transpark in Bowling Green. It's expected to come online by 2025, and it'll power 300,000 electric vehicles annually by 2027. Envision is a company with a tremendous track record for success. They've been producing high-performance extended-range batteries for 12 years. They are not new to this. They've been doing it as long as everybody else, and they currently power over 650,000 vehicles operating in 44 countries. In that time, Envision has achieved a record of 0 critical battery malfunctions. They have an unrivaled success when it comes to safety of their product. Not only is this company creating quality jobs in Kentucky and furthering its place within the automotive market, but its leaders are committed to sustainability and a vision of the future. The Bowling Green operation will be powered by 100% renewable energy, supplied by on-site generation, and with support from the Tennessee Valley Authority. A big thanks to the TVA. This is the most significant project that the Commonwealth and the TVA have ever worked on together, and it took both of us working side by side to make this project happen. Envision AESC is an incredible addition to the Commonwealth, one that positions us as a leader in the present and for the future of the automotive industry. So thank you to everybody who helped make this possible, from our legislature that passed a couple portions of the budget to make this project happen, to the locals in Warren County and in Bowling Green that were so welcoming and worked so hard, and to everybody on Team Kentucky. And thank you to CEO Soichi Matsumoto and U.S. Managing Director Jeff Deaton and everybody at Envision AESC for their faith in Kentucky. This facility is just the start of what is going to be an incredible ecosystem that includes Ford, the largest project ever in our history, that brings in not just suppliers to make batteries, but our aim is the entire life cycle of that battery, from its use in a vehicle to other potential uses after that vehicle, to the ultimate recycling of that battery. We want to see as much of that life cycle here in Kentucky, and we are now better positioned than any other state to bring in all the other businesses that are going to be a part of that ecosystem. But for Envision, our pledge is we are going to get this done. We will not let you down, and it's just another example of a company betting big on Kentucky. Okay, very quickly, last night we had some real significant weather blow through most all of Kentucky. In fact, here in Frankfort, the sirens went off. My family and I were down in the basement. And thankfully, at least as of the information that I have seen, we haven't had reports of any critical injuries, but we do have many still without power. As of 11:20 a.m., 12,691 Kentuckians are without power. That's a little over 6,300 in Jefferson County, a little over 3,000 in Fayette County, And there are other counties, but they all have less than 1,000 each. I know everybody is out there today looking to clean up if our information is right, and we have not lost a life during this event. We will count ourselves blessed, and we will clean up, get everybody's power back on. And thank you for the transportation cabinet, for our utility workers, for everybody who is out there working hard today. Next, vehicle tax, property tax reimbursements. In February, I issued an executive order to immediately stop an increase in vehicle property taxes that was being caused by the rise in the value of used cars. The tax rate was fixed, but as fewer new cars were coming on the market because of a chip shortage, used cars values, what it was worth, what your property was worth, were going up. And what that meant is the property tax bill was going up. And this was happening at a time of inflation where things already cost more. And this tax bill was ultimately going to hurt Kentuckians and make it a little harder to get by. So my order froze the assessment to last year's value, and that's going to hold steady for the next couple of years. As a result, vehicle owners will pay the same amount in tax in 2022 and 2023 as they did in 2021, provided they own the same vehicle in a similar condition and that they live in the same county. In addition to the executive action, which immediately began the refund process, the General Assembly also passed House Bill 6, which codified the executive order. The bill included a requirement that these refunds be issued within 90 days to eligible vehicle owners. Today, I'm pleased to report that not only are we going to meet that deadline, but we are issuing them significantly faster than required, and it's all due to the hard work and collaboration of many state and local agencies. And while the effect of the February executive order was immediate, notices of vehicle taxes due had already been issued or were in progress for Kentuckians whose birthdays fell in the months of January, February, and March. Now, we have more than 221,000 recorded refund checks, which are scheduled to be mailed out over a 2-week period beginning early next week. So 221,000 refund checks will be going out here in the next couple weeks to Kentuckians. Checks will be issued in batches of $25,000 per day until the refunds for vehicle taxes paid in January, February, and March have been sent. Notices of vehicle taxes due in April through the remainder of the year have already been adjusted to the frozen rate so that people will pay the same amount, provided they meet those 3 criteria that they paid in 2021. Because you'll be paying less, there obviously won't be a refund for you because you'll be paying the old rate instead of any newer one. The action is estimated to save Kentucky vehicle owners more than $370 million. Vehicle owners with questions can find more information on the Kentucky Department of Revenue's website. Appreciate everybody that's worked really hard to get these checks in the mail to Kentuckians at a time when they can certainly use them. Now I want to talk for a minute about something that we haven't necessarily seen this legislative session, but I'm committed to, and I'm going to step up and set an example once again, and that's transparency. Throughout my entire time in elected office, I've committed to be transparent and to earn the trust of the citizens of Kentucky. That's why this morning I released my tax returns and a statement of financial disclosure for the 6th consecutive year. Beginning with the release of my 2016 tax returns, I've done it every year since taking office as Kentucky Attorney General in 2016, meaning I've done it every year I've been in public service. I only have one employer, and that is the people of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. All public officials should work to earn the public's trust and to demonstrate their only interests are what's in the best interest of our people. That's what used to be expected. Now it has become the exception. Since the first time I released my tax returns 6 years ago, I challenged every other constitutional officer as well as legislative leadership to do the same. And since setting the example, since asking everyone else for the same transparency that I am willing to provide to Kentuckians, only one constitutional officer has stepped forward and met that transparency challenge or obligation, and that's our Lieutenant Governor, Jacqueline Coleman. So as we sit here today, We're the only two statewide leaders that you know exactly where every dollar that we make is coming from, and that you can trust. That you can trust because you know how we support our families. It's time for others to step up, especially after yesterday, for the third time this session, the General Assembly voted themselves a pay raise, already earning a swollen $60,000 plus a year for what's supposed to be a part-time job, more than the average Kentuckian makes. And they gave themselves a pay raise for a part-time job. Don't you think you deserve to know what their full-time job pays them and where those dollars are coming from? I certainly do. And for 6 years, I've been giving you that information myself. So, for the sixth time, I'm challenging others to do what used to be required for public service. Release your tax returns. Be honest with the people of Kentucky. All right, some good news. COVID continues in a general decline across Kentucky. Let's show the map. This obviously came out last week, and we'll have a new map at the end of today. But during this last 7 days, only one county not in the green here in Kentucky. This is obviously the CDC's new map, and it includes more than just case counts and positivity rates. It looks at hospitalizations and other factors. It shows you we are in the best place in this pandemic since last summer. And I do think we've reached generally where we were last summer. That's something we've prayed for ever since. It feels good to be there. And while we will watch different numbers and indicators, as I'll show you in a minute, our positivity rate is up a little bit at the moment. We don't see signs that would concern us enough to change any course that we are on right now. And we may have more questions on that later, but this is a good map. That whole map's been read for a long, long time. This ought to make us all pretty happy. Enjoy being together. Do make good decisions and make decisions that you're comfortable with about whether to wear a mask or not. But it looks like it's going to be a pretty good spring, and I hope everybody enjoys it and doesn't take it for granted. So looking at our stair-stepper chart, look at that. We continue to see declines. Obviously, our case count a little bit higher than it was, really at the lowest point of last summer, but the virus also much milder right now than it was, even in the depths of last summer. So certainly feel that we are in a good place. Positivity rate ticked up, just a little bit, but remember it's still at about 2%, incredibly low. And we only get a certain amount of testing that is out there now. We think it's still a pretty good representative sample. But where this is, we don't believe that there is any cause for concern at the moment. And as you look at where we were last summer, certainly even where we are this week is generally in line with much of where we were then. The best news, let's look at our hospitalization chart. This tells the story. We are at one of the best places in terms of people hospitalized for COVID than we have been in the entire pandemic. That means fewer lives are currently at risk. It means our healthcare heroes can breathe a little bit and take care of people for all of the other maladies that they may be facing. The ICU chart, just as good, maybe even a little better, looking like it is below where we were last summer. Now that could make sense given the variants that we're dealing with now appear to cause less severe disease than the version we were dealing with last summer. And Kentuckians on a ventilator. Look at this one. I mean, it's almost all the way down to zero. Those are Kentuckians on a ventilator because of COVID. Now, as low as that is, we should expect it to probably flatten out here soon. But look at where we were in Delta. Even look at where we were a little bit in Omicron. And look at where we are now. We are in a good spot in this journey, and we certainly hope it continues that way. In terms of Kentuckians being vaccinated, Just one major improvement in our overall numbers. And let me say, our vaccination numbers are down, but they are steady. We are still getting people vaccinated for the first time every day. We're still getting people boosted every day. Our total 18 and older, these are Kentuckians that can make their own healthcare decisions, now up to at least 77% of all Kentuckians getting at least their first shot. Folks, what this means is that even some folks who may have been very public about disagreeing early on have come around, given time, hopefully given patience, and probably given the experience of loss that so many of us have experienced during COVID. That's a pretty exciting number. That's 77% of all Kentuckians 18 and up that can make their own healthcare decisions. Let's keep going. It's not enough, but we've never seen this in the history of Kentucky, this level of vaccination in this short of a period of time. All right, and also good news. We're in the midst of Holy Week, and this Saturday we will have an Easter celebration in the outdoor space between the Capitol and the Capitol Annex, and the event is free to anybody who wants to come. We're asking everybody to arrive by 1:30 p.m. to, bless you, to visit food trucks, participate in family fun activities, festive games, and crafts. At 2 p.m., the event kicks off with an opening prayer by Todd Lester, pastor of Forks of Elkhorn Baptist Church. In addition to songs performed by the Louisville-based St. Stephen Church praise team, you want to see this. It will be fantastic. The celebration will include an Easter egg hunt and a special appearance by the Easter Bunny. I even think Winnie's got an outfit if she will wear it that day. It's probably about 50-50. My family and I look forward to seeing everyone this Saturday as we gather with grateful hearts. Another event that's on the horizon is a celebration of Kentucky's longest standing, amazing tradition, the Kentucky Derby. I'm thrilled to announce we'll be hosting a Team Kentucky Derby Week kickoff. That is our Team Kentucky Derby Week kickoff at the Capitol on Saturday, April 30th from noon to 5 p.m. The event's also going to take place in that green space in the outdoor area between the Capitol and the Capitol Annex. The celebration will have family-friendly activities and entertainment such as art vendors from across the state that are setting up retail booths. The Franklin County Farmers Market is going to move the farmers market up that day, and they're going to be selling locally grown and produced Kentucky Proud products. We'll have live music that's going to be performed by a group of local bands, and food trucks as well as Derby-themed crafts and games will be on site. More information surrounding the event will be coming soon in a press release and on social media. So to recap, Easter celebration and egg hunt this Saturday, 1:30 p.m. Team Kentucky Derby Week kickoff Saturday, April 30th at noon. We saw how fortunate we are, given what we've lived through in the pandemic, to have most of the state green, to have our numbers where they are. Come out to a great outdoor activity and enjoy. Speaking of Derby, we were able to unveil this year's Derby posters just yesterday. The Derby is known as the most exciting 2 minutes in sports, but here in Kentucky, it's more. It's part of our culture. To celebrate the 148th Kentucky Derby, the First Lady and I had the privilege of selecting a Kentucky artist to showcase what the Derby means to our people. Yesterday, we joined Tourism, Arts, and Heritage Cabinet and their Secretary Mike Berry, as well as the Kentucky Derby Festival, to unveil the 2022 Governor's Derby Celebration poster. This year's artist is a former state employee who, along with her husband, former Kentucky Emergency Management Director Mike Dossett, you saw him a whole lot right here in COVID and helping us get through the tornadoes. They've dedicated their careers to serving the people of the Commonwealth. Cassie Russell Dossett, because she's a star, we did a retirement party for Mike twice. So this one is definitely for Cassie. Was born in Lexington, raised in Louisville, and lived in Eastern Kentucky for 30 years. Her artwork, Race of a Lifetime, was also selected for the Spring 2022 Team Kentucky Gallery, which is right here in the Capitol in the hallway right outside of the room that we are in. Cassie's love for Kentucky and horses shines through this year's poster titled Bluegrass Dreams. The poster portrays the shining sun bright over a field of Kentucky bluegrass with a bright chestnut foal gazing in the distance. Bluegrass Dreams is meant to honor anybody who had a dream and then took the steps to make that a reality. It reminds me a lot of where we are in the Commonwealth right now, announcing state-changing, future-altering announcements that are going to give opportunities to my kids and everybody's kids and grandkids throughout the Commonwealth that many of us thought might never be possible. So right now, Kentucky, we've dreamed big for a long time, and we're starting to see those dreams become a reality. All right, and finally, our team, Kentucky AllStars. So if you have been to the Capitol lately, you will see that it is springtime. And what that means here at the Capitol are the tulips are in full bloom. You know, these are incredible. In many ways, this is our cherry blossoms. That's what people go to Washington, D.C. to see when they bloom every year. I think we have something just as special here in the Capitol. So each year, visitors from around the state travel to Frankfort to take photos of the beautiful landscaping on our Capitol grounds, which is designed, planted, and maintained by employees in the landscaping branch of the Finance Cabinet's Department for Facilities and Support. In addition to tulips, the crew is also responsible for the seasonal design featured on our one-of-a-kind floral clock, which holds 100 tons of dirt and flowers and measures 34 feet in width. These groups of professional landscapers also maintains the Capitol Rose Garden and designs and cares for a variety of beautiful hanging planters and other flora that surround the Capitol. And at the height of the pandemic, they had the somber responsibility for placing thousands of flags that were planted on the Capitol lawn in remembrance of Kentuckians lost to COVID-19. In addition to their work on the Capitol grounds, they also maintain the Governor's Mansion, the old state capitol, the old Governor's Mansion, all here in downtown Frankfort. So our team Kentucky All-Stars are members of our landscaping crew here, and they include, because they deserve to be recognized, Ryan Hicks, he's our landscaping manager, Sean Purvis, our landscape garden supervisor, Caitlin Farley, who's responsible for the grounds of the Governor's Mansion. I saw her this morning. Harper Smith, landscape gardener 2, who has more than 40 years experience working for the department. Erica Van Meter, landscape gardener 2, and Tim Deppenbrock, the longtime employee of this department. Today, we recognize them as our team Kentucky All-Stars. I don't know if folks have ever talked about them in a press conference. They're the reason that so many people come to Frankfort at this time of year. And if you drive up to the Capitol right now, you'll see folks in front of these flowers and others, them, their kids, and the rest, getting amazing pictures that are going to make memories for a lifetime. So with that, here on the last day of this legislative session, we will open it up to questions. We'll start with Debbie.
Let's go and ask about the last day. I wonder if you might sort of assess the legislative session, what you think they accomplished, what they think they failed to do, and also what overrides gave you particular concern.
So this legislative session, winding down, will first be remembered for a budget. And it's a budget that in many ways met the moment we're in. It invested significantly in higher education. I'm very proud that despite $250 million being cut from higher education since the Great Recession, since I've been governor, we've put $95 million back in, I think all in the last 2 budgets. There's going to be another round, bucks for brains for our universities. Some needed projects are going to be done, an asset preservation pool that was needed. There's a new site development fund, one that I asked for that the General Assembly is working with us on, that's going to help us help communities have the next Glendale to land the next Ford plant that's out there. Other parts of the budget, water and sewer dollars that are going to help us move forward, though they did override a line item that's going to keep counties from pooling dollars together to do projects that help all of them. But certainly infrastructure, broadband was really a good budget for it. And at the moment it was needed. But it's also going to be remembered as a budget that did not meet the moment for K through 12 education. Now, this was a budget that provided a raise for the Kentucky State Police that they desperately needed, that provided an 8% raise for most state workers that was desperately needed. But the one group that was left out intentionally were our educators. That's not just our teachers. That's our custodians. That's everybody working in our public schools. They deserve that raise too. And I'm going to keep fighting for it. Funding that went K through 12 could and should have been state changing. We had the opportunity to do that, and the General Assembly chose not to. And then the failure to fund universal pre-K when we could have done it with 9% of the extra funds that we have is just inexcusable. Every child deserves to be kindergarten ready in Kentucky, and we can make that happen. But again, we'll keep fighting for that. Number of other bills passed. I think I've signed a record number, or it has to be close to a record number of bills this session. Some really helpful, ensuring that we are preventing child abuse, that we are addressing a number of diseases that afflict sometimes even our children, putting more money into cancer research. But this session, we also saw some things we shouldn't see in a legislative session, a legislature voting 3 times to raise their own pay. And then we just saw some meanness. Some bills that were passed where they're not addressing any real challenge. And some bills that are really going to harm people. The cuts to our safety net make us one of the least generous, stingiest, meanest states for those who have been knocked down. We just had a prayer breakfast where we talked about the Good Samaritan, the individual on the side of the road who'd been beaten and robbed that didn't have a dollar to his name. And you know what? The Good Samaritan helped that person up. A lot of legislation passed in this session means we're going to kick the people who are down, and that is not helpful to business and not helpful ultimately for where we're going as a state. It's not in line with our values. It's not in line with my faith. Bodie.
Governor, I'd like you to weigh in on a veto override with the yesterday. Senate Bill 1. It appears there was a drafting error that's emerged from this that would give criminal penalties to educators for violating those provisions. There's a bill that's more or less stalled in Conference Committee, House Bill 44, to sort of fix this. I'm curious if you can weigh in on that, considering it is the last day to fix this.
Well, I don't think a sponsor can claim that there is a mistake in the bill they pushed through. Because if the sponsor hadn't read every word, then they have no business in voting on it. So anything in that bill is the responsibility of that sponsor and of those who voted for it. Because the General Assembly can claim they didn't know that they were criminalizing certain behavior by teachers when they passed the bill, but they knew about it when they voted on the override. And you can't vote in favor of a bill that contains that and say, oh, we didn't mean it. It's mean. It's wrong. It is beneath responsible adults, much less what we should be seeing out of an elected body in Frankfurt. Vindictiveness, anger, attacking groups of people is not what an elected body in a democracy is supposed to do. And I hope we see better. All right, we have Tom Latek on the phone.
Thank you, Governor, and good afternoon. I wonder if you could give me what you feel your biggest triumph is of the session and your biggest disappointment.
Well, in this session, we have certainly seen funding in the budget that does some really good things. Our Kentucky State Police was at their lowest level really since 2007, if not worse. Public safety was in jeopardy. We are addressing that, and we are already seeing it pay dividends. Certainly state workers, what we're able to do in higher ed, there are some really good pieces that we could do some really good things with. If you want to talk about the most recent great success, is that this budget in part made possible the announcement yesterday, the Envision, the second largest economic development project in our history. And if you look at what's in the final budget, it's a whole lot of what was in the recommended budget. And most of it wasn't in the House's budget that they filed before getting the governor's budget. So I hope in the future that this puts us back to the traditional path that we would take, where the executive branch gets to weigh in on an executive branch budget. What are the most disappointing parts? What's most disappointing to me is folks who come up to the Capitol who care so much about an issue. It is so personal to them. And they go into a room to testify, and they're almost just dismissed by people's comments or by their language. These are the people that we serve. And even when we disagree, we can show people respect and show them empathy. And so a lot of my biggest disappointment in this session is how people treated other people, especially the people that we serve. Melissa Patrick, Kentucky Health News.
Hi, Governor. Without appropriations, what is the plan to comply with reporting and the additional requirements in House Bill 3 and 7 that deal with abortion and public assistance?
Well, first on House Bill 3, ultimately that's going to be handled the way that every bill that's passed on that topic is handled. It's going to go to court, and ultimately a judge is going to make a ruling and tell us what to do, and we're going to follow that. That is what happens every single time. This time we'll follow that same path. Certainly there is an unfunded mandate in that, and we'll have to address that. Now, we're just barely past the veto overrides, and I will tell you, House Bill 7, which I think has about $130 million unfunded mandate, to be perfectly frank, I don't know how we're going to do what they ask us to do. You know, we're 90 folks short in UI in our unemployment office compared to when Governor Bevin was in office. And we didn't have any of these extra requirements then, and they were still busy. We don't have enough people now to do the work that's in front of them, and they just added $130 million worth of work. Now, they can argue against that number, but they know they added at least tens of millions of dollars of work and provided zero appropriation. So how do you expect to pass a bill that says you will do the work of 25 people, but we're only giving you 5? So the best we can, but we only have a certain number of people that can work a certain number of hours, and there's no magic that lets the rest of it work. Now, there are cases out there. In fact, it's one of the main cases on why we have to have a budget. It's called the Fletcher case. And that says that the legislature can refuse to fund something that's in one of their statutes. But when they do that, it is them showing their intent that you're not supposed to do what's inside of that statute. I mean, that's very clearly in the law. And that was something that Governor Fletcher had argued against. And that's the ruling from the highest court in the land. So we're going to have to analyze all of this and what we have enough people to do. And then we're going to have to analyze the law that exists, not a way we like it or don't like it, but in what our ultimate obligations are going to be. But it is not responsible to say you're going to do these 40 extra things and we're giving you no resources, even though we've complained that you can't get your current amount of work done. And that's on them. I'm sure they'll try to put it on me, but we've told them all along that we need more resources to do it. And if they provide us the resources, we have a legal obligation to do it, even though I think it's mean. And even though I think it hurts us in the long run, our duty is still to carry it out. But you have to provide the resources to do it. And do we have Joe Ragusa on the line?
Yes, we do. Hi.
Okay.
I have another question about something that came up actually during your press conference, so my apologies, but we were just in the Senate speaking with Floor Leader Thayer, and he said that unless something changes in the next 11 hours or so, sports betting is effectively dead. I figured, I know you've got thoughts on sports betting, but given that tidbit of information that we just learned, I was wondering what your thoughts are on that.
My thought is if Damon Thayer wanted sports betting to pass, he'd get it passed. It's time. You know, the people of Kentucky absolutely want this. You know what else? I think they've got a duty to pass medical marijuana. I mean, when 60, 70, 80, 90% of Kentuckians are in favor of something, It's time that we move forward with it. Sports betting is in every one of our other states, border states, and they're all save one, I think, led by Republican legislatures. So it's time we join the modern world, and if they'll pass it, it'll become law. So I'm in favor of sports betting, and like I've said, if they won't pass medical marijuana, we're going to sit down and we're going to see what type of executive authority we have. And we're going to try to find at least some path to begin moving forward, again, to join the vast majority of other states. All right. Thank you all very much.
Can I ask one more thing?
Sure.
The bill 608, the brain machine bill that passed the Senate last night, any thought about that?
I rarely comment on bills that are still moving through the session. We'll review it if and when it gets to us.